Third. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Financial Aid and Scholarship Secrets webinar. So we have some amazing experts here um, to tell you all about financial aid. Actually, we're going to breeze through financial aid really, really quickly because we know that you all want to hear about how you can get money outside of the financial aid route. So we have Leah and Eva joining us for that. Here is our agenda. We're going to talk about what is financial aid and who is eligible. We're going to talk about the types of scholarships, the top essay prompts, scholarships based on the SAT or ACT. Oh my gosh, another reason to do really well in those exams. We're going to talk about some of our favorite scholarships and give you some tips about what are the best scholarship search engines so you can go looking yourselves. And then we're going to do our best to leave lots of time for Q&A. One thing that I will do as the moderator is try to pepper in questions. So if I see questions related to what you're talking about, I might ask them because I know sometimes we go over and we don't have as much time, but we do like to get all the questions in. All right, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Let's do this quickly so we would leave lots of time for the meat and potatoes here. I'll just say really quick that I'm Lisa. I'm the founder and CEO of Ivy Tutors Network. We've been around for 22 years, hard to believe, and we like to gather thought leaders in the education space. We have a fantastic college admissions office led by John Morganelli, who's here. We have an amazing SAT program, which is not the topic here, but we can talk about that another time. Research mentorship, those are all the programs that we offer for high school students. We also have brilliant expert tutors on staff to help with other subjects. So, since I mentioned John already, John, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm John Morganelli. Pleasure to be here today to talk about scholarships. I've worked at three different schools here in the US. At the first school I worked at, we did a lot of work around financial aid, merit scholarships, and need-based aid. I am the former director of admissions at Cornell for the College of Arts and Sciences, and author of the book Growing Ivy: How to Crack the Code on Elite College Admissions.
Awesome. Awesome. Leah I'm so excited that Leah's here. You guys should be too. Leah's really the expert on the merit aid portion of this. And Leah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Leah Lemaster Horton. I'm the founder of Horton Test Prep, and I'm a scholarship consultant. So I do meet with families and help them learn the process of how to earn scholarships. So it all started by helping my own three earn full tuition scholarships, and I just kind of got into the industry. So
Love that
I'm really
story.
passionate about this.
Amazing, amazing. And Eva works as a tutor for Ivy Tutors Network, but she has her own story, which I'm so excited for her to share with you guys. Hey, Eva.
Hey, yeah, my name's Eva. I'm a tutor in both SAT and subjects for IB tutors. And I had an amazing opportunity in high school to enter a scholarship competition where I made a video for Cards Against Humanity of all companies. They have this amazing Women in STEM scholarship opportunity. And I will talk a little bit more about that later on in the seminar, but that actually gave me a full tuition scholarship to MIT, which was super amazing, super exciting. So I'm super excited to tell you guys all about my experience. And I know
Unbelievable.
it's nerve-wracking, but yeah, excited to
Yes.
be here.
Yeah, you're so right. This is a stressful time for a lot of students, especially if we have 11th grade here, 11th graders here thinking about this. So um, I'm just going to show this for just a second, and I wanted to show this is part of our method at Ivy Tutors Network, is part of the Morganelli method, John's method for college admissions. And we'll talk more about this as we go through what is required for these applications. But we wanted to stick this in because we show this to families all the time and we say, what's really important is that you have an ethos driven or a theme driven or an on brand application all around kind of with a theme that ties everything together, that's true to who you are and unique to who you are. And it was really interesting when we were learning more from Leah about all these merit scholarships. John and I were saying, oh my gosh, that's what you need for these merit scholarships. Also, this kind of ethos-driven, theme-driven essay that shows, what is unique about each student. So, it looks like we need one more, little arrow coming out of this ethos that shows, scholarships, because it is also part of this world, right? Okay. All right, great. So we're going to dive right into financial aid. And again, we're going to move kind of quickly through this because there's a lot here, but on the other hand, the merit, I think scholarships is maybe a little bit newer to people.
I'll
John, you
jump in.
want to take these?
Just kind of give a brief overview of financial aid. Financial aid is a rather broad umbrella, and this
Yeah.
slide is illustrating that when you get your financial aid package, or you even start to think about the different types of awards, you're going to see a wide variety of different types of financial aid. The best type is gift aid, right? Aid that you don't have to repay. So that's grants and scholarships. But you'll also see loans as part of financial aid packages, work study as part of financial aid packages. So it's important to recognize that there's a variety of different things that make up the full financial aid package, and be aware some of them, all of them help pay, right? But some of them have to be repaid. Some of them don't. Some of them have different terms and conditions. So just be aware of that.
Definitely.
Okay, then we move on to like the need formula. So this is can be complicated. The simple overview of this is simply that the total cost of attendance, which is your tuition plus room and board and all the expenses, less your expected family contribution. That's where it gets tricky. Your EFC, your expected family contribution, you might fill out the FAFSA and get an EFC. That's your federal methodology EFC. You could fill out the CSS profile. We'll talk about that later, and you'll get a different EFC. That's your institutional methodology EFC. The point is that the EFC is being calculated differently at different schools depending on what methodology they use. But the general formula is cost of attendance minus what they think you can afford, not necessarily what you want to afford, right? But what they think you can afford, equals your financial need. And then different schools, depending on their financial aid budgets, will meet or not meet that need. Some schools meet 100% of demonstrated need, which is kind of a interesting statement because they're calculating it differently. So, demonstrated need can be different from school to school. But some schools come out and say we meet 100% of demonstrated need. Other schools say very openly they don't meet 100% of demonstrated need, and that means that they're gapping you. So they're saying, we think that you need $20,000 a year to afford this, but we can only give you 15. So you're being gapped by 5,000, and that usually happens at your less selective schools, generally under the need-based aid formula. So I leave this slide with there's a formula. There's a standard formula, but there's some intricacies to the formula that changes from school to school. Just be aware that this formula is out there and that it will look different depending on what institution you are applying under.
Got it.
All right. Then we got the two
FAFSA.
docs.
We've been hearing a lot about FAFSA in the news.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of delays with FAFSA, and every year there's been issues. There's changes with FAFSA. They used to ask you to list all the institutions that you were applying for, and the schools used to get it. So when I worked at Lehigh University, I would see like, oh, there's 8 schools, and you noted us number 6. What does that mean? So like there's a lot of things that have happened with the FAFSA. They've changed the documents over time. They've had delays, but in the end, FAFSA is your free application for federal aid. Every school, for the most part, requires it. Almost all of the private schools also require the CSS profile, and that's because they start asking more detailed questions about home equity, business income, other sources of income that FAFSA generally doesn't. So if you're applying to a state school, you might only need FAFSA. If you're applying to a private school, very likely you will need both of those documents.
All right. So much more to say about all of this, but we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, I kind of went over this already, FM versus IM. It's just important to recognize that these are different formulas. And that means that, you might look at 2 schools that you consider to be very similar. They're both small liberal arts colleges and, 30 minutes apart. They might calculate these things very differently. So I think the next slide, you can probably just move to the next slide then, Lisa, talks about net price versus sticker price, right? So college admissions is tough because they don't tell you what you're likely to pay right away. You have to kind of go through a process. The best way to figure out what you may pay, generally speaking, is to use the net price calculator. So you know what the sticker price is. They tell you that generally. And then you go on. Most of the schools have it on their website, the net price calculator. Some of them use the College Board version. So if you fill it out one time, you can import other schools and quickly get net prices for a variety of schools. Some schools like MIT create their own, and you have to kind of complete theirs, and then College Board has a separate one for other schools. So check out the net price calculators. There's a lot of negativity around them from families. When I was in college admissions, we'd hear a lot of negative comments about it. Most of the time it's because there's some level of ambiguity in the question, and the user interprets the question differently than what they intended. And so they put bad data in, they get bad data out. The admissions offices, the financial aid offices, are more than happy to pick up to answer a phone call from you asking questions about how to complete net price calculator so you don't put down the wrong information, wrong in, wrong out. But use the net price calculator. It's very helpful. And, I would suggest you do this for 10, 15 schools to get a sense of how you're being considered across a variety of different institutions.
Well, that's good advice. Very helpful. Thank you, John. All right. Wow, you really did that quickly.
There you go.
Thank you. And I'm getting some questions in the chat here about how to ask a question, and just put it in your Q&A instead of kind of doing a raised hand. If you can write your question in the Q&A, we'll either answer it live or type an answer for you, if that makes more sense. Well, John, we're already being asked for an example of a good ethos statement that you've seen. Do you know one, like, off the top of your head?
We were just working on one.
Definitely putting you on the spot.
That's okay. I happen to have one that we were just working on today for a young lady.
Oh, cool.
So we always have two versions of it. One's a longer version and one's a concise version. The concise version is designed to be accessible so the student can kind of understand what it is that we're trying to say. So the concise version for this young lady is interested in sustainability, economics, and policy, kind of like Earth systems. There's some environmental studies aspects to it. The concise version of the ethos is, I believe that a person must embrace being uncertain in order to uncover what others overlook in the search for environmental solutions. So this is like a very short, concise. And the longer one is, I've always loved chasing questions without obvious answers. Since childhood, I've been drawn to spaces between disciplines, spaces where ecology, economics, and ethics blur together. But it wasn't until I tried to model the socioeconomic impacts of sea level rise in the Meadowlands using GIS, and in parentheses, I failed many times, that I realized uncertainty isn't something to avoid. It's something I grow through. In that space of not knowing, I find the clarity that structured answers can't offer. Whether I'm blending finance into environmental policy or exploring the ethics of ecosystem engineering, it's in uncertainty that I become most myself, curious, layered, and willing to follow ideas no matter where they lead.
Wow.
That would be like a brand statement for the app that we now are thinking about, okay, how do we use this?
Like a mission statement.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is, I put this back up because it's really at the center of everything that you do, including these really important merit scholarship applications.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thanks for asking about that, you guys. All right. We want Eva to go first because we're so excited to show you, her story. Eva, do you want to talk at all about kind of this process, maybe how you found this this particular scholarship and whether you applied to others, and then we can play, like 60 seconds of it or something?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess talking about ethos would be a good way to kind of explain how I got to this scholarship.
Cool.
I definitely had kind of a path in my whole life leading up to high school where I had two loves, one being art, the other being like physics, math, kind of the study of the cosmos. So I was in astronomy club, I was in a math club. I kind of got my hands on any sort of astronomy opportunities that I could. And simultaneously, I loved art. During my evenings, my free time, I would be in my basement working on sculptures, working on different things. And so when it came time for college admissions, my ethos was kind of bridging these two seemingly unrelated fields of art and STEM and finding cool ways to explore the beauty in both together. So anytime I kind of found some sort of interesting mathematical topic, I would always think about it in a very visual way. And one topic that just rattled around my head a lot was four-dimensional mathematics. So if you know anything about that kind of higher level mathematics, basically it's thinking about like the space of our actual universe. So we live in three dimensions. You know, you can go forwards, backwards, left, right, up and down. But if we enter the fourth dimension, which that's where things get weird with black holes and with the gravitation, that's when there's another axis that you can play with, which is something that humans cannot wrap their heads around just by virtue of us being, you know, beings in three dimensions. But it's really fun to try. And so I had this problem of trying to think about what it would be like to live in the fourth dimension, to look in the fourth dimension. I had read this book called Flatland, which has an amazing thought experiment about what it would be like for a two-dimensional square to then enter, you know, our three-dimensional world and how mind-bending that would be. And that really stuck with me. And I was like, okay, I think I could make some sort of video out of this. I think I could do some sort of animation, some sort of way to create a really interesting educational video. The impetus for the video was actually a different scholarship that I had heard of called the Breakthrough Junior Challenge, which asks students to make a 3-minute video about any sort of STEM topic that they're interested in. And so I had applied the year earlier with actually another video about four-dimensional math. And this year, or the year that I entered again, I made a much stronger video playing on kind of these ideas from this book that I had read of Flatland. And I brought in some of my sculptural skills, some of my stop motion animation skills, kind of bringing in all that love of art and physics that I had talked about. And this video didn't actually end up progressing in the Breakthrough Junior Challenge. But what was amazing is I told my friends about the video, I had them watch it, and one of them said, hey, I heard about the scholarship that Cards Against Humanity has that's also asking you for a 3-minute video about a science topic you're interested in. You should throw your hat in the ring and submit your video. And I was like, sure, you know, what the heck, I will. And that started this really exciting process where they liked the video and I progressed to being a finalist. And then one day I got the exciting interview where they said, you won and your college is going to be paid for. And the scholarship is applicable to like any school you go to.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty amazing journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing all that. So
Yeah.
do you remember if the Cards Against Humanity scholarship is always, or at that point at least, was like a full ride, or did you combine it with other scholarships or other aid that you got?
At that time, it was a full ride.
Wow.
Since then, they've shifted it. Instead of giving one full ride to one student, they now give 5 $20,000 scholarships.
Okay.
And I believe it's 20,000 like annually. So
Yeah.
they wanted to spread
Yeah.
the wealth a little bit, and they had so many amazing entries. They wanted to give it to a few more people.
So amazing. All right, let's watch a little of this. Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, for sure.
Try to wrap the present, hang it up first. It seems impossible, right? I mean, it's sealed on all sides. But what if you could go around the box through the fourth dimension? This is a zero-dimensional point. Line an infinite number of them up along an axis to get a one-dimensional line segment. Line an infinite number of those up along a second axis to get a two-dimensional square. Stack an infinite number of those up along a third axis to get a three-dimensional cube. So, following this pattern, a four-dimensional hypercube is made by placing an infinite number of three-dimensional cubes along a fourth perpendicular axis. If we were to slice any of these objects, we would see that the cross-section of an nth-dimensional object is n-1 dimensions. That means that the cross-section of a fourth-dimensional object is three-dimensional. You can think of a four-dimensional object as kind of like nested boxes, where each cross-section is three-dimensional.
I love how you can see your like art skills and your physics skills.
Thanks.
Of saying that a series of hollow, nested, two-dimensional squares is the equivalent of a three-dimensional pyramid. So we know what a four-dimensional object is, but what would it actually look like if we lived in 4 dimensions? Imagine you were flattened to a 2D world. What would you see? You would only be able to look at the edges of the other objects around you, thus your whole world view would consist of a collection of line segments. Jumping in our world is just a 2D image. Don't believe me? Try this. Sit down and paint everything you see. And look at your painting edge on. It's two-dimensional. So a 2D world is seen in 1 dimension. A 3D world is seen in 2 dimensions. So that means 4D world must be
I'm going to stop this because I think I didn't set up the
But only be able to see one cross section.
volume in the best way with Zoom here. And we will definitely send this to everyone who wants to watch the whole thing and really hear all of it well. All right, now I have to figure out how to get out of full screen. One sec. One sec.
What a fantastic job, though, of taking an incredibly complex topic that no one can really understand and making it accessible, which is genius. And that works for MIT, you know?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
job.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
All right, sorry guys, got to get back into this share mode here. Oops. Not that.
I think this is also a great example, Eva, you know, of like you didn't, a lot of people when they do the videos, especially college admissions videos, they do like a day in the life of, and they think that that's, you know, how you kind of like show who you are. But like you showed so much of who you are through like a very specific, very complex question, which I think is a really smart way to go about illustrating yourself.
Thank
me
you.
see.
I've never thought about it that way. I really like that spin.
It's great.
And more of the scholarships are actually incorporating in the video aspect of it above and beyond the essays. So it's neat to see that.
Yeah. Oh, you have some fans, Eva. Somebody says, not a question, but I've seen your video before on YouTube, and I was absolutely inspired.
Thank you so much. That means more than I can say. That's really nice.
And then a question for John. Can I apply to university scholarships based on CSS profile if I'm not able to FAFSA due to eligibility criteria?
I'm guessing that's an international student. Like basically they don't, if you're not eligible for FAFSA, you're probably international as non-citizen. And then usually there's almost no real financial aid for non-US citizens. Once in a while there's a scholarship or something, but like if we're talking about need-based aid, very, very rarely is need-based aid being given to international students.
Right. Okay, well, we have a lot more scholarships to talk about here with Leah, application-based scholarships round 2. Oh, sorry, this one I think is John's, right?
Yeah, this was just
One
an
more for
example.
John, and then we'll talk about Leah's favorites.
Yeah, this is just the institutional scholarships, right? So like in the Ivy League, for example, there are no merit scholarships or Ivy Plus. You know, most of the schools don't have merit scholarships. They have need-based aid. Of course, outside scholarships can be applied, but there are some top tier schools that do have merit scholarships. Vanderbilt's a good example. The Ingram Scholar, it's if you were to get it because it's both tuition plus cost of room and board, it comes to like over $325,000 in total value. You can see that there is an earlier application deadline. Many of these institutional scholarships do have it, so they'll say, you know, RD deadline's January 1, but you need to submit for a scholarship by December 1. And then you have a few additional prompts, letters of recommendation, interview processes. Those are all common parts of institutional merit scholarships that have applications. A lot of schools have institutional scholarships that have no application. And then it's just you've applied to college. Hopefully you've put together an amazing app. Like many of our students, it's ethos driven and brand driven. And then you have a great chance of earning a merit scholarship, even though you didn't apply for one. But there are some schools that are actually soliciting your application. And it's important to know what those criteria are and to make sure you don't miss the deadline.
Amazing. Okay. Very.
Oh, this is me too. I'll just throw real quick. You should compare financial aid packages. You can appeal them. You definitely can appeal them. And if you can compare similar institutions, so peer institution to peer institution, one gives a better financial aid package. Very often the peer institution that gave the worst one will match the peer institution because they know that it's unlikely a student's going to choose, you know, a higher cost over a similar experience.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, and you can appeal if your income change. If there's an actual change in financial circumstances, there's actually a form called the change in financial circumstances form that you submit. You could also send a letter in. But if nothing has changed and you're just making an appeal, the best appeal is based on other school financial aid packages that you can leverage.
Okay, great. And John, we're being asked if you're required to take the loan that is part of the financial aid award.
No,
Like, could
you
you
can
just
cross
take
it
the
off.
grant, but not the loan?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Many parents will say, "Oh, we take it because that's like our children's part. Like they have to take some responsibility in this education." So some people do it, but
Ah,
generally it's
fun.
not an amazing loan.
Okay. Okay, great. We thought we'd just put this out there. Probably if you were applying to college in the US, you've seen some of these very high numbers, but these are just some averages to think about. Leah, is there anything you wanted to add here?
Yeah, and I just want to also second what John said. My husband actually worked at a private college, and so I know a lot about college admissions as well. And you can a lot of times negotiate, like what John was speaking about, with, when you have other acceptances, the financial aid department will work with you. That is certainly more true with private schools than it is a state school. But it's kind of good to have those other offers so that you can negotiate. Because one school in particular that we were working with, I kept going, oh, we had free college back in Florida, right, with Bright Future Scholarship, but we were wanting more and more and more, and they gave us 3 times. So I appealed 3 times to the financial aid office, and they gave it to us
Ew.
each
That's
time.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how many students don't realize this, especially if they're trying to decide between several offers. That's a really good time, you're in the power seat there, right? And you can ask for more again and again and again, apparently.
Yeah, and this is a really good slide. Just kind of start off the process so you know
Yeah.
what you need, right? Are you considering going out of state, private school, state school, an Ivy League, right? Just kind of helps you kind of know what you're going to need. Because for me personally, I also know through my research that the national average is 20 years to pay off student loans.
That's
In fact,
too.
I know it just blows my mind that that is it, but it's sometimes so much more. I just did a talk at UT Austin, a college fair, and a mom came up to me and said that she heard in my talk that the national average was 20 years to pay off those student loans, but yet it had taken her 33 years, and she had just gotten her student loans paid off last year. And she's like, I just don't want that for my daughter. And so it's good to know, right, the cost so that we can get on to, well, we've got a couple other things to do first, but
Yeah,
let's move.
yeah. My husband did put himself through undergrad and law school, and I think he was maybe 43 when he paid off both of those. And that was with a lot of aid.
Yeah. And just the learning of the process of how to go after those scholarships is going to help avoid the draining the family savings, right? Or excessive student loans. So before we can get into some of the good news about scholarships, we have to tackle some bad things. So I am not a fan of this scholarship displacement. When I first heard of it, I was like, is that legal?
I
And
know.
so
It doesn't feel
I
like it should be.
there's actually 6 states that have litigation trying to make
Yeah.
it not allowed. And
Yeah.
so I did some serious research. I just wanted to touch base on it so that all the students and parents that are here tonight know that it exists, that many schools will, um, take away some of the financial aid package and grants that they gave you in the package when you were bringing in those outside private scholarships. And I've had a parent ask one time, oh, does private scholarships only go to a private school? And I didn't even know that was going to be a question that somebody would have, but the answer is no. The private outside scholarships that we're about to be talking about are going to be the scholarships that could go to any college. And it's usually stackable, right? Where you can earn one scholarship and another and another, and it just goes towards the tuition. I just wanted you to know what scholarship displacement was so that you realize and take it into account when you were making your college decision. But there are some workarounds. There are some scholarships that will break their own rules because usually the money does not go to the family. They know that the students are going to buy clothes and lattes, right? So they usually send the money directly.
Right?
directly to the school. 99.9% of the time, that is the way. But due to scholarship displacement, I have seen some large scholarships that have broken their own rules. They have deferred payment, actually ended up sending it directly to the family or send it to the family later so that it could go towards paying off those student loans.
Wow.
So there are some workarounds. You can look into it, but for tonight, I just wanted you to know it existed.
Right, right. So if a university gave you what they thought was a really good package with grants and loans, and they saw that you were getting a lot of money elsewhere, they might actually, decrease their package. Yeah, that's really sad. John, do you see this happening at a lot of elite colleges or less so?
Less so at the elite colleges. The schools that gap students definitely will do this because they're obviously have limited budget. So it's usually not merit scholarship. Like if you have a merit scholarship and you get an outside scholarship, they usually will not reduce the merit scholarship. If you get need-based grant and then you get outside money to help pay for the cost, well, they're saying you got that because you had financial need and now you have a way to fill that need with an outside scholarship. So we'll take it away. Usually they don't take it dollar for dollar. They'll do like 50 cents on the dollar is very typical. Like, okay, you got $1,000. We're going to take $500 of the grant money away. You can keep 500 and now you're kind of ahead a little bit. But these are usually your less selective schools.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. We have a question here about whether need blind is really need blind. And this anonymous person is saying that they're noticing like some schools recently got sued for reviewing finances. I don't know if you guys have heard of that during application process. If you have anything to say, is it really need blind? And then maybe somebody can answer this person specifics typing.
Well,
Yeah,
I would say my experience is that need blind is probably not as blind as you would imagine. They're blind in many, it really, there's a lot of variabilities in what they mean by blind. They might say, for example, the admissions officer reading the app doesn't know anything about your financial need status. That's usually true.
100%. Yeah.
But like, what about the audit on the back end when they're looking at all the offers and distribute and trying to decide, because there's always too many offers or not enough in these certain areas and they have to redistribute offers. Usually, not all schools, but usually at that point, schools that have some budget constraint, even if they're need blind, will start to look at how much money that they're pending giving out based on the offers that they have identified and what that would look like year over year. And then definitely the schools that are need blind, even if they're completely need blind through that initial process, very often they're not need blind off the wait list at all, right? So like now they're going back and they're looking to see. The need blind schools, the need aware schools get a really bad rap, but like, they're really not generally making that much different decisions than the need blind schools. Just kind of like when it's happening, when they're looking at these finances, as noted by the question, like the financial aid budget, like how would you be blind and hit it right on the nose? You know what I mean? Like you have to have some awareness of what the budget is within the context of the offers you're making.
Right, right. Yes, and then there's always the argument that you can tell by the kinds of activities that a student lists on their applications, whether that student comes from affluence, like if they are attending very expensive summer programs and things like that, right? So it's almost impossible to be blind of that because you see it right there on the application.
But
right?
That's true. Yes, that could be another thing.
Yeah. Is it true that the worst that can happen when you appeal an offer is you get a no, meaning colleges cannot rescind their offers?
Yes, that's
Or can
correct.
they?
They will not. No, they will not rescind your offer for asking for more financial aid. They might think you're very annoying, but they will not rescind your offer.
Yes, yes, yes. We heard a real life example here from Leah who went back 3 times. I love that.
But that's how you get the bucks, which is, you got to be the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's totally true in this process.
Yeah, love that, love that. All right. So scholarship displacement is something you can Google, you can look up online, you can call financial aid office of the schools of your top choice schools and ask about it. All right, let's move on. Ooh, lots of myths here that are not true. Tell us more, Leah.
Yes. Okay, I hear this all the time where
Yes.
the family, 1 and 3 are very similar, but I left them in here.
Okay.
Where students think, hey, you have to be a straight A student to actually start earning scholarships. And that is just simply not true. There's so many different scholarships out there for your areas of interest, for talent. Some of them are merit-based, right? And your merits, your GPA, test scores, and extracurriculars. But there's a lot that are based on just the essay that's written. I do believe that the vast majority of the private outside scholarships are essay-based, so you do need to be a good writer to win those. But number two, scholarships are only for seniors. Not true at all. My absolute favorite scholarship we're going to talk about in just a minute is the President Coolidge Scholarship. It's a full tuition, and you apply December of your junior year. So that one, yeah, it's a doozy. It's so good.
I know we have a lot of 10th graders here, so.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to write that one down. President Coolidge is my absolute favorite. We'll talk about it in a second. Number three, there aren't any scholarships for average students. I know this is very similar to number one, but the main point is that all of the scholarships out there cannot just be put in a box. There's such a wide variety of scholarships. I just want students to start going after scholarships. And you can start anytime in high school. I do normally recommend starting December of your junior year and then going after scholarships, one scholarship per week. And like kind of having a check-in with mom and dad, like on Sundays, I usually say Sundays by 6, scholarship search and submit. And this simply means, hey, every Sunday you check in going, hey, what scholarship am I applying for this week? Oh, okay. Because if it's due Tuesday at 5, are you turning it in Tuesday at 5? Absolutely not. Why? Because I have seen it happen so many times. Oh, I was at the orthodontist appointment and I ended up not getting that essay turned in that they had previously written. So no, you do the check-in on Sunday.
Hit submit.
But it's so good to have that deadline of Sundays by 6, right? So you're turning it in several days before it's due. But the main point is that
students who are like, applying for many, many, many smaller scholarships, right? Like you can snowball them.
Yes, you're going to be going for the big ones and the little ones because obviously it's going to be the larger scholarships are going to be more competitive, a lot more applicants in it, but somebody's got to win it. So I highly recommend going for it. Like we were successful because we went after a lot, and 2 of my children were Disney scholars. That's $20,000 a pop, right? One of them did really well with Distinguished Young Women, got $25,000. So
and that's $20,000 annually for 4 years.
Actually, the Disney scholar was not. That was a $5,000 per year. Yeah, that's the one I think I was mentioning to you that where my second child forgot to renew and we lost it. So be really careful with those rules. And we had to go through an appeals process to because she forgot to reinstate. You're supposed to like go accept it each year, and accepting it was proving that you had met the grades and that you still qualified to be a Disney scholar. And so that was a $20,000 total, and it was applied $5,000 per year. So anyway, background to the list of debunking.
Yes.
Is that you don't have to be just an athlete, right? There are specific scholarships for athletes, but you don't have to be an athlete because there's lots of different categories, right? There's going to be the merit-based only category. There's going to be the merit and need-based category. And then there's going to be that perseverance and passion and commitment to community or just an impact in the world type of a scholarship. So if I have only low income qualify for scholarships, no, not true. There are those specifically, and I'm going to give you just top 2. I don't want to overwhelm you with scholarships when I give you some of my absolute favorite. It's not worth the time to go for the small scholarships. That is the huge lie. Let's debunk that. You are actually going to win more of the smaller scholarships. So you definitely need to be going for those too. You need to be going for the local scholarships where only people in your area live. For example, I live in Pendleton, South Carolina, the cutest little southern town ever. And there are a lot of scholarships that are just for the people that live in my town. So knowing about those local scholarships are also really going to help you. And there's too much competition, so I won't win anyway. That's just not true. That's a defeatist perspective, right? Like you need to realize that it is very empowering for you to learn how to write a winning essay, because once you learn how to do that, you will keep winning and winning and winning and winning. So those have been debunked. Let's get to some fun
Your
stuff.
ethos-driven essays can get you a long way. Yeah, and you can, I really learned this from you, Leah, that you can stack these on top of each other, and they really can add up fast. Another thing I hear a lot is that there are lots of scholarships for specific like ethnicities or backgrounds or all kinds of different demographics. You mentioned local, but also like where your parents were born or who you ethnically your religion.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of search engines, and we'll get to it in just a little bit.
All
But
right.
when you fill out your dashboard completely on a search engine, and your dashboard is filled out completely, then they're going to send you like your inbox. By the way, create a new email address, and make it be professional. I actually had one of my students whose email address was body bag bill and then a couple numbers. I'm like, we need to change that. It needs to be a professional email address. So create a new email address, check it often, but so that only scholarship driven emails are coming in there. And that's where you would be getting the email from the search engines that are sending them to you. So we'll get to that in a second. But this is where some of the good, fun stuff comes in, where we've talked about the expense of college, and yes, it is expensive. But when you want to start the process of how do I begin earning scholarships, it all starts with writing your personal statement essay. So that is something I would recommend, maybe 500 to 800 words. That is the most common word count that scholarships are asking for, 500 to 800 words.
Yeah.
And the reason it's important for students to do this first is because, number one, it helps them just be reflective and think about, hey, what's my dot, right? The dot is what you think you want to do with your life, keeping in mind that dot may change in time. But what am I thinking I want to study? Am I thinking I might want to do with my life? What am I passionate about, right? Showing that ethos statement in this, which I refer to it as a profile statement, and we have that on the student resumes as well. But your personal statement essay is the first step because you give it to your reference. And the reason why it's so important is for your reference to buy into your passion. When they want to support you and make your dreams come true and be willing to keep uploading their reference letter over and over and over again for scholarships, they want to be that village that is supporting you. But you will get way stronger, stellar letters of recommendation when they have bought into your passion. So all of that starts with writing that personal statement essay. And on the next slide, we're going to see that actually that personal statement essay answers 4 of the top scholarship prompts. So I'm super excited about that. But number 2.
Now, can you use the same personal statement essay? Because the word count is very similar to your, the Common App essay.
What was the question again?
The essay that you're writing for the Common App. Can you use the same essay?
Yes. And that happens so often because a lot of times I'm working with students that are like sophomores and juniors, and that personal statement essay does end up morphing into your college entrance essay, right?
Because you're doing this first because these deadlines are ahead of the Common App. Yep, makes a lot of sense.
And students keep perfecting it because I love teaching students through the good, better, best version of this essay and then helping it be better than best. Because when it keeps getting tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, then it's going to be fine-tuned by the time they really need it, which is probably August of their senior year to apply for colleges. But this starts the process, which usually, and you can do it anytime in high school, but usually I recommend that December of your junior year so that you have a year and a half to go after scholarships while you're living with mom and dad, and having them encourage you through it and learn the process of the 1 per week. And it's not as time consuming as you think. If you write these 3 essays, so let's get to number 3 here. That getting stellar letters of recommendation, I just want to let you know I have some very, very strong opinions on letters of recommendation. They're just Leah's opinion, okay? I want to say that up front, but these letters of recommendation, the student needs to guide the recommender. And one important point is telling the recommender, please don't put the name of the scholarship in the letter. This is vital. Why? Because through the years, I've seen students go after one scholarship and they get stuck. Why? Because they didn't guide the recommender. The recommender says, I think that Sally would be great for this specific scholarship, right? And they don't want to go back and bother them and ask them to make changes. And so they just never apply for any more scholarships. They accept the financial aid package from the college calls it a scholarship, and they're done. It doesn't have to be that way. If the student will guide the recommender and send them an email explaining these details, right? Please don't put the name of the scholarship in it. Can I have a date, letting them know, are you going to be my academic reference or my character reference? I think it's important for the student to have options. That's why I'm recommending ask for 6 letters. You're only going to use 2. So I normally suggest ask for 3 academic references and 3 character references, and you're going to narrow it down to 1 academic and 1 character reference. I will tell you the academic reference is going to be the one that you use the most. If possible, I don't recommend blind letters. So let me talk about what that is. Just you're like, what's a blind letter? A blind letter means that the student doesn't get to see it in advance. Now, let's be clear. The reference person is going to be the one that sends it on to the scholarship committee, or they send it on to the college, right? If you're using it for college admission. What I'm saying is that if you're going to be going after some full tuition scholarships, like the President Coolidge Scholarship, you want to know what's being said about you, right? You want to be informed. Now, I understand the reasoning why a lot of schools have the blind policy. It's because some schools have it because one teacher is an amazing letter writer, the word gets out, right? And then 300 students are asking that one teacher to write the letter of recommendation. So I get the reasoning why schools have that rule. And if you can't change it, those are the only people that you know for sure would be the ones willing to write you a stellar letter of recommendation. Fine. That's fine. You can just guide them. And I'm sure that Lisa has a policy for that as far as guiding that reference, how they know the specifics of what to put in there. I just want you to know every single letter of recommendation is positive. But what I found with my oldest, and she went into high school in 2009, actually, was that when we were looking for those letters of recommendation, probably sometime around 2011, 2012, we only asked for 2 letters, and they were good and positive, but describing any student ever. And then we realized, oh, we need more choices. Opened up the funnel, got more letters, and it mattered because I want you to look at those letters and you'll be like, okay, that's very good and positive, but describing any student. Oh, wow, this is an over the top letter. This is a stellar letter. That's the letter that's going to help you win scholarships. So you definitely need stellar letters of recommendation. And again, I said I had some strong opinions on this, but I wanted to give an example. My son received an amazing letter from his physics teacher in high school, and it was specific on how he showed leadership and was very inquisitive, asked all kinds of questions, just was a great student and was very specific. And that's what you need, the teacher to know the student very well and to give specific examples of why they excel in their class. Except at the very bottom, she happened to mention that he was also the class clown and really enjoyed making everybody laugh. And I'm like, oh, no. So right. Any teeny tiny bit of negativity, right? You don't use that letter. What I also realized is that adults, just like students, will wait to the last minute, right? They're going to put it off. So give the reference person the 2 to 3 weeks time, but realize they're probably going to wait until the night before it's due to write it. The other thing I realized is a lot of adults are not good writers. That's why you need options. That's why I'm suggesting ask for 6. You're only going to use 2. So told you I had a lot of strong
Great
opinions.
tidbits. Yes, love all this advice.
As far as number 4, this is the second essay because I really want you to already have 3 pre-written essays. The essay on how you've contributed to your community. I see that prompt often, and it's usually something like, tell us the time that you made a contribution to your community and what you learned through that process, or what leadership skills you gained through that. And so that's just one to kind of keep in mind, right? That a lot of times they're wanting to know how involved are you in your community, especially if you're going to be going after those local community-driven scholarships as well. And then the write an essay on how the scholarship funds will help you. Believe it or not, that is the number 1 prompt. I was kind of surprised, actually. The number 1 prompt is how the scholarship help you. And I can see it from the perspective of the scholarship committee that's making it up, going, hey, let's find out how the funds will benefit the student, and
they're going to benefit the student by having them go to college, by allowing them to go to college, right?
Yeah, but I thought that was an interesting number 1. And then the other thing, just make sure that you have
I mean,
that.
I think I say this facetiously, but it's a challenge, I'm sure, to write a really fantastic essay answering the question in a different, in with more meat than what I just said, right?
Yeah.
Because the true answer is this is going to allow us the student to really be able to afford college, but you need a lot more than that.
Yeah, and the main thing too, when you're answering that prompt of how the scholarship funds help you, the student, make sure that you come back around to the impact of not just you, but the impact to the world. And then why should the judge care, right? Like, why should they care that they have decided to give the funds out? So you're really kind of answering
specific to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not what is the scholarship going to do, but what is it going to do to you, for you? Yeah. And how,
right.
Yeah.
How this for the student, for the world, and then how it ends up being a blessing even to the committee that's giving it away.
Think bigger.
I serve on scholarship committees. I am actually on committees that read hundreds of essays, right? And they start to blur in my mind. So
Sure.
the essay needs to be memorable. And so that's the main thing, is helping the student learn how to take an essay. By the way, the first time you write it, it's going to be good or barely good. Realize you're going to have to edit it multiple times to get it from good to better, and then from better to best.
Lots of drafts. Yeah. All right. Request an unofficial transcript.
Just make sure you have that on hand.
Okay.
Because usually if you win the scholarship, they're going to ask for the official. So this was
it's almost 7, and we definitely want to leave like 15 minutes because we have so many great questions. I also want to say to everybody who's putting questions in the Q&A, great questions. We're definitely going to leave time and go through those in detail. But just wanted to give you guys a time check.
Perfect. As we can see here, Going Merry, which, if you don't know, is a search engine. I'm going to give you a list of some of my favorites in a minute. Great. And this is their list of the top 10 prompts that they see. And keep in mind, there's like thousands of scholarships on these databases. But so it was really interesting to note that the bolded ones, right, that I have there, 3, 5, 9, and 10, you could use your personal statement essay. So once you have that written, it already answers 4 of the top 10 prompts. That should be exciting to you because it's the one you will use the most.
Right. Love it. Love it. All right, let's get into some of your favorite scholarships, Leah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the types of scholarships are merit-based, okay, number 1, merit-based and need-based, number 2, and then the community impact. And a lot of times I refer to that one as the perseverance and passion category. So, and you don't necessarily have to be, have those extremely high grades in school. So my favorite top 2 scholarships are, I think it's the next slide. Yeah. The President Coolidge, I mentioned that before. The reason it's my favorite is because of the timing, that you need to go ahead and just realize you applied December of your junior year. It just sneaks up on students. So it's really kind of good to realize, well, this is a top merit-based scholarship. I need to have the merit, which means you need to already have those test scores. That's why I normally recommend starting the test prep journey spring semester of 10th grade. The normal, this is industry standard, that it normally takes 5 months from start to finish for a student to
For a
reach
good SAT or ACT score. Yeah, for
right
sure.
for them to get their scores on the books, hopefully by October of your junior year, so that you can not only be in the running for the PSAT national merit, but also have those scores on the books, both good scores for PSAT as well as for the SAT, so that you are ready for the scholarship. I want every single junior to apply for it. Do I think you're going to win this full ride scholarship? I don't know, but what I want you to realize is the process is what's valuable for you. The process of realizing, oh, I need a student resume. So you write one. And the student resume needs to be focused, a focused student resume that's focused on whatever you're going after.
Mm.
And the
Ethos driven, one might say.
yeah, I was going to say, I think I forgot to mention it on the other slide, but on
Yeah.
the student resumes, you can use a template. They're free on canva.com, a student resume template. Just realize I don't normally recommend having your photo on it. A lot of scholarships will ask for a photo, but that's not given to the scholarship committee. That photo they ask for is really just in case you win, so that they can put it on the website. So don't think that that's going to the scholarship committee. So normally, I'm going to suggest to not have a
Yeah. A lot
photo
of
on.
true that a
resume.
lot of templates of international sites like Canva that people use all over the world include a photo because it's commonplace in other countries, but less so in the US to have a photo.
Right. They just don't want to bring in a bias. But I will say that, just take the little photo out. For somebody who serves on scholarship committees, I do like a visual. Like if maybe the student was an Eagle Scout, it was really nice to see the little, Eagle Scout emblem to represent a huge accomplishment in their life and things like that. Or maybe they were in the Girls in STEM, right? The club. And that was a huge part of their life. They're, wanting to be an engineer and they were highly involved. Having that logo there is fine and good because it's memorable. At the end of the day, we want to be memorable. The background to this scholarship, I just wanted you to know that the timing is perfect. That's why it usually starts with this scholarship, because it is a full ride scholarship and includes room and board, which, by the way, my all three of my children are grown now and out of college. But my son just graduated from a private school up in Boston, and I just thought I'd mention that the housing and meals was roughly $7,500 per semester, so that's $15,000 per year, and I think that was on the low end. What would you guys say, Lisa, John? So I think keep in mind it might be closer to like 18,000 or 20,000 per year for housing and for room and board, right? Housing and meals. So just kind of keep that in mind. But this, a full ride scholarship, includes it all and is just a great goal to go for. They do have what's called Coolidge Senators, and there's 100 winners of that. They win a trip to Vermont to network with the who's who of tomorrow and $1,000 scholarship.
Great. And how many people are Coolidge scholars?
Only 2. So it is quite competitive. I definitely still recommend going for it.
Yeah.
Because
like you said, it helps you get your ducks in a row. So by December of junior year, you're already thinking about things like your personal statement, your resume, your reference letters. You're getting your ethos statement in a row.
Absolutely. And I normally recommend, or I was going to say, I've had multiple students become Coolidge Senators. So they go for the big one, but they still win $1,000, right?
Great. This is your other favorite.
Oh, yes. As far as merit-based scholarships, I love this one. It kind of starts off local, but it does transition into a national competition. Distinguished Young Women is actually the largest scholarship for high school senior girls. But once again, you have to get your name in when you're a junior. And that's just kind of to learn about the system. But they literally give away millions of dollars every year. So it's really, really good. And my oldest was the one who won 25,000 through this organization. And then my middle daughter won about 5,000. So it's worth it because it's fun, but then also networking with some other, highly driven students.
Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
I clicked
Yeah.
on the slide and it went right to the Coolidge Scholarship.
Oh, okay, interesting.
That's
Well, while you're pulling up, I'll talk about the student resume thing I forgot to mention was I do normally recommend having a profile statement, which is like the concise ethos statement that John was mentioning. And I think that when it ties in to your activities, I did have a student who was highly involved in Taekwondo, and she very much valued safety. She got her black belt, but then her area of interest was cybersecurity and was very concerned about wanting to keep our country safe from cyber attacks. And so that message of safety went in. And so having a image on her student resume of a young girl that had had gotten her black belt was memorable. At the end of the day, when it comes to earning scholarships, I would definitely, use a type of an image on there that ties into your interests, and also make sure that the entire student resume is focus driven.
Love it. Okay, and then there's a category called merit and need-based. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
so I'm
talk
just going
about
to
your
give my
two
view
favorites.
on this one. So the Amazon Future Engineer scholarship is going to be one for the high school seniors that, even though it says minimum of the GPA is just 2.3, that means anybody should go for it. But I do know from history that it's really going to be somebody who is both a merit-based and financial need based, but definitely should look into it if this is your area of interest, the computer science, which is the #1 major in America right now. So it's definitely one to go for.
Love that. Okay, and the Gates Scholarship.
Yeah, the Gates Scholarship is another very well known. It is for high school seniors that have need-based, but you do need to be African American, American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, and Pacific Islander American and or Hispanic. So keep in mind, but it's the same idea of a great scholarship that is both.
Very interesting. And of course, these are just two examples from each category, but there are
There's so
hundreds,
many
if not thousands, of each one.
So many more.
Yeah. All right. Community impact.
Yeah, this one, the Dr. Pepper tuition giveaway. This, like, if you go to college football games and you see that Dr. Pepper where they're throwing the football. Yep, this is it. The students that turned in a video, and the video is that their personal statement essay, right? And a combined of how that winning scholarship would help them. So it's kind of like the point of both of those. I will say this, that if you're ever given an option to do a 30-second to a 3-minute video, turn in the 3-minute video, or the 2 minutes and 59 seconds, always be 1 second less. Like when I'm evaluating essays and it's, between 500 and 800 words, if you turn in the 500 versus the 800 and I'm evaluating it and they're both excellent, right? I'm not going to say I'm prioritizing one if they're not as excellent, but if they're both excellent, I'm going to choose the 800 word because it communicated they were willing to do the most work possible, versus a student that did the 500 words. It's communicating message. I just want to do the least amount of work.
Yeah.
So this is a real fun one, though. You can go on YouTube and check down the past winners of the Dr.
Watch some
Pepper.
great videos. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Taco Bell one is also the impact into the world. So this one's create a 30-second to 2 minute, so create a 2 minute video that showcases your passion and your desire to make an impact in the world. So
Love it. Okay. And a lot of scholarships under this umbrella.
yeah, and I am a huge fan of NSHSS. It's the National Society of High School Scholars. It is not the National Honor Society. This is different. This is a members only organization. I will take a quick stop for a second and say, be careful of scams that are going to say, oh, give us your social security number. Yeah, don't do that. Or pay money for this scholarship to apply for this scholarship. Don't do that.
Okay.
Or for
So that's important. None of these scholarships have a fee associated with them. Is
yeah,
that accurate?
this
Okay.
this is different. This is different. This one is a membership. So you do pay $90 and you're a member for life. This organization is not charging per scholarship that you're going for, right? This is a members only group where you attend events. There's webinars, there's live events, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia, all over. They have a ton of college fairs. I just spoke at UC Berkeley. I spoke at UT Austin. This weekend, I'm speaking at Clemson University, which is right down the road from my house. So this is different because it's a members event and you're a member for life. And they're going to have to change their name because they have a ton of scholarships for college students. So I just want you to know it exists and know that it's legit. I actually found out about it in 2008, even though they were founded in 2002, didn't join. Then in 2011, when I'm like, "Ooh, we need scholarships to pay for college. How are we going to do this?" The president of Georgia Tech spoke at their conference in Atlanta, kind of legitimized it for me. I'm like, "Oh, okay, it must be legit." It is. I actually joined, and I've been a educator that can nominate students for, gosh, 13 years now. And then I just became a partner. So that's pretty exciting. And so
Yeah.
I'm very involved with this organization. That's why I speak at their college fairs about how to earn scholarships. So I
Yeah.
just want you to know it
How
exists.
big are these scholarships typically?
Yeah, there's a ton. So you can look, just Google NSHSS scholarships, go to that link, and you'll have to scroll to the bottom of the page to see that they have a bunch of open ones. So like the 18 under 18, they were giving away 18 $1,000 scholarships for students. And it's the typical thing, right? Where you write an essay, either 500 to 800 words, and tell us about, what your major is and why you to do that. It's your personal statement essay, right? Or create a video of what you want your impact to be. So what I'm trying to get the point across is that once you do a couple of these, just like Eva mentioned, right, that same idea helped her be able to apply for a different scholarship. And then she won a full tuition scholarship at MIT.
Yeah.
So there's a lot on there. I do highly recommend NSHSS. So
Right.
not to be
Even
confused.
if you just get $1,000 a year, you're using that same essay and applying for so many of them, and they can all add up. Yeah.
And you're just tweaking. Like, for instance, I'm on the scholarship committee for the Word Nerd. It's a scholarship for high school graduating seniors that love advanced vocabulary. And so it's the kind of scholarship where you have to make sure you're the right fit, because so often students will send in an essay and the beginning of the essay says something like this: well, I'm not really a word nerd, but. And I think, oh my goodness, you're wasting my time because I'm required to read all these essays and I know you're not going to win. So make sure you're the right
nerd. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Just start with I am a word nerd and I'm wondering if we should take a few minutes to go through a few questions, and then go into some of these scholarships and tuition adjustments related to SAT and ACT scores, which is really, really important. But we have some great questions here and that I don't want to forget to look at. Let's see. Okay, here's one we get a lot. Can you please talk about when being a high income candidate is negative in college admissions because you show privilege? Is it true for some schools? Is it more true for some schools than others? For example, I've heard people deleting their expensive summer programs from their activity list to avoid the bias. What's your take? I guess this is a question for John.
Yeah, I think it's more done.
Yeah. You're welcome to also
I would
answer.
say very, very rarely is it really an issue. I mean, we talk about authenticity in the apps, and I say many times to a student when they're thinking about summer programs, people will go to Harvard or MIT for anything, right? Even if they're not interested in the topic, they'd go there because it's Harvard or MIT. Not many people will go to a community college unless they're actually intellectually curious about whatever it is, or they have to do it for a specific reason. But so yes, there is some thought behind the concept of like some of these high price summer programs stacked together that don't have theme or ethos built around it can look like just a privileged rich kid going to a bunch of programs that their parents told them to go during the summer. That can look like that. I think if there's some theme and intentionality, it won't look like that. But there is something to be said for doing engagement experiences that are not structured at high priced programs. Usually the ones that are most beneficial are independently focused and don't cost money. Maybe it costs a little bit of money to facilitate a mentorship or something, but usually it's individuality that drives decisions that are positive. So we don't recommend a lot of the high price summer programs because we don't write essays about them and they're not necessary, but I don't think that they typically hurt you.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow up with that and saying I'm a huge fan of passion projects. I think that when a student completes a passion project, which just to define what it is, it's something you're passionate about that's in your area of interest that's going to help you confirm your major. And so you can do it on a ton of different ideas. But I did have a student who was considering finance, and she ended up putting on a passion project, which was a teen investment camp. It was 3 days long. She invited a financial planner to come in and teach it. And 20 teenagers signed up for this camp to learn about how to invest in the stock market. So it was crazy. But it was a win-win for her because I think passion projects are amazing, even if you realize, oh, I hate that. I don't want to major in that. I don't want to do that job, right? Win-win. That just saved you a ton of time and money not taking courses on finance. But it sometimes, and in this case, it helped her realize, I want to know that information. I want to be able to be a financial planner and help people. And so that a lot of times is going to show more to colleges when you put on an event yourself because there's so many decisions have to be made. Who's going to attend? Where is it going to be held? Right? You're going to be showing a lot of leadership by hosting.
Yeah, that's definitely part of our method too. We call that the perspective piece. How are you showing your own perspective on something? And yeah, absolute could not agree more. Research mentorship, a passion project, starting some kind of small business, some kind of some students start something charitable with a group of friends. Absolutely, especially if it's within your ethos. I think some of these we did go through. Is it possible that applying for FAFSA can lower your chances of admission? So we talked about how many schools are need blind. So that would be a no. But less so a no in the wait lists is what John told us earlier. And then
lower your chances at need-aware schools, right? Like pretty obviously.
Right. So definitely look
I don't see an app for that.
Oh,
you'll need to download one.
My phone decided to answer the question. Did you guys hear that? That's so funny. Okay. Great. And housing, as in financial aid, need-based schools, can you appeal and request a break? I think we talked about that as well. That there definitely is an appeal process. Okay, let's talk about how the SAT or ACT can impact how much money you get for college.
I love this quote so much. It says, it turns out actually that the SAT or the ACT is the single best predictor of a student's academic performance at Yale. And so I think what's really good to know is
Yeah.
that those test scores can be used for three things. Number one, make you more a better candidate, right, for getting in those competitive schools. Number two, because
100%.
you can negotiate those financial aid packages. And then number three, you can cash those scores in for merit-based scholarships. So three reasons to get scores. I
Okay.
love slides so much. When can one question on the ACT or SAT be worth $36,000? Well, let's look at the University of
Yeah, tell
Alabama,
us about this.
because what's interesting to note, according to the U.S. Department of Education, the average financial aid package for a four-year school is the $15,000 price.
Okay.
So that's on here, the slide, the foundation and excellence. Okay, so we can see that that is when a student would get that $15,000 financial aid package. But if their test score goes up 1 point on the ACT or 10 points on the SAT, which is roughly one question, then that financial aid package goes from 15,000 per year to 24,000 per year, right? So it goes up by 9,000, which actually ends up being a $36,000 bump. So one question can be worth 36,000. Now, I will
This
tell
is a
you,
specific example from the University of Alabama, and depending on your SAT or ACT score, they actually will qualify you for a different level of grant. Is that what we're seeing here?
yes, absolutely. And I do
That's
know a
really
lot about
exciting.
private schools as well. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you, a lot of schools use your test scores to give you your financial aid package. Some schools will tell you, like University of Alabama, other schools just do it and they don't tell you. Okay, so just keep in mind those scores are needed to get better packages.
Okay. Great. Great. Okay, we have somebody who really asking for an answer because they're in a time zone where it's 4 a.m. Are written statements undocumented evidence about why you can't pay considered by colleges when applying for need-based scholarships?
Maybe a John.
Are written statements evidence about why you can't pay considered by
Or like,
college?
would you give a statement about why you can't pay?
Um, Basically, the short answer to that is no. I mean, when you fill out the document, the fact that you can or cannot pay is really the issue. Like, can you pay or not? The why behind it is mostly irrelevant, except for in appeal processes. Then the why does play a role. But at least initially, when you're applying, submitting a statement about why you can't afford it wouldn't have any impact.
Interesting. In the appeal process. Yeah. And I'm wondering if that question was from somebody international because just they mentioned that it's 4 a.m.
Mhm.
So that's a whole different ball of wax, right? So
Totally different.
you're not filling out, we're really talking about US college admissions here. Or for students who went to high school in the US, and a lot of these scholarships that we're talking about, as well as the forms that we're talking about, like FAFSA, are really, specifically for students who went to high school in the US.
Yeah. The truth is international students are generally paying more and funding domestic students. You're not getting a lot of aid that way.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, that's exciting about the SAT scores. I love this example. All right. And these are our search engines.
Yeah, there's a lot more than this. These are just the top 8. My top 2 favorite are bold.org and scholarships.com. And here's why. Bold.org is going to have a lot more it's a smaller database versus scholarships.com. So it's going to have less competition and also a lot of smaller, because with Bold, you can go in and create a scholarship for your grandmother, right? And it's just going to have a lot more options for those smaller. But I do want to be clear, it's not just those that one-offs that people create, right? There are a lot of very good, solid scholarships in bold.org. And if you fill out your dashboard completely, and it's free to do it, then it will, what I like about it is that not only will it send you scholarships that are to your major, of study, but also to your interests. So if you filled it out and you put that you love photography as a hobby, then they're going to send you photography scholarships as well. So this is where you niche down using search engines wisely, right? Only create 2 accounts. Do not create 8 accounts. That is just going to overwhelm you. You're going to get too many, right? Keep in
Wait,
mind.
so your recommendation is to create 2 accounts for every for every one of these search engines. What was with possibly slightly
No,
different
just choose 2
Oh,
of this.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
thinking,
sorry,
wow, that's a
just
lot of
choose
accounts.
2.
Okay.
But I want you to find the one that is the right fit for you. But
That
what
makes
I like about scholarships.com is that you can go in there and search for specific scholarships to your major, right? And so they both, it's just that there's a lot more, people using scholarships.com. So therefore more competition. That's why it's wise for you to be on a smaller database and a larger database, but it needs to be the ones that are a click for you. That's where I'm like, take time, go to these, check them out. The majority of them are free. Every once in a while, some of them have charge a very small fee, $7.95 a month kind of thing to use it. But there's so many of them that are free. You don't really need to pay. But I do, bold.org also has, webinars and information on there as well. So those are 2, great ones. So if by chance you already have 2 accounts and you're like, oh, I'm not getting enough options come my way, then you can go, fill out and create a 3rd account.
Okay.
Which again, create that new email address that's a professional email address. So all of those emails that come into that inbox are scholarship related. Check it often,
I love
right?
that. Yeah.
Careful about those scams out there.
Yeah. And Leah, we do have a couple of people who did not go to high school in the US, or who are not in high school in the US asking here, will any of these sites support that kind of demographic, or is it really for folks who grew up here?
No, there's international scholarships on there as well. Absolutely. And scholarships for grad school. And what I think is so important, number one, I forgot to mention earlier, is that be careful of turning in things that are AI created, like if it's an essay, because most of the scholarship committees, I know we do, we have software that can find whether the essay has ever been published online anywhere, or if it was AI was used to create it. So just be careful about that and know that it's so much more empowering for you to learn how to be a good writer so that you can learn this process. And that it's kind of like the give a guy to fish or teach him how to fish. No, you want to learn how to fish, right? So you can know how to do it. You need to learn how to write winning essays so you can continue doing it, right? Not only in high school, but all through college, because then you're going to realize, oh my goodness, I can completely fund grad school on my own because I know how to write winning essays, right? And so the thing to know is that there are a lot of international scholarships on here as well as grad school scholarships in these search engines.
Yeah, we actually have somebody asking here about how to become a better writer when applying to college. And I know Leah has a really great course on how to write these fantastic personal statements and essays. So we'll definitely, I know she'll be following up with you guys and sending you info about that. And we'll also send you info on how you can work with Leah to help you find the right scholarships for you. So, okay, let's get to some of these questions. 7:27, guys, not bad, not bad. We've learned to make our webinars an hour and a half so that we stay, like, relatively speaking within the time frame. Okay, somebody out. Oh, there you go. We answered that. Asking for good websites to look. How do you ask for letters of recommendation? Is there a format?
Yeah, I do have a template that I teach in the course. The course is called Secrets to Earning Scholarships, where it goes deep and wide in all of these things and exactly how to do it. And so really you're just guiding your recommender on within the template, which is your email, that's guiding them on what exactly you need for those letters of recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that when we ask teachers and guidance counselors for letters of recommendation for college admissions, it's important to also give them a brag sheet, right? To kind of remind them who you are and when, the different interactions you've had with them, because a teacher can have a lot of students and forget those little details.
Yeah, and that's why, because I want to make sure, I know I mentioned it several times about turning that personal statement essay into the reference, but you also give them your student resume. And then this is optional, but highly recommended. You could give them your favorite essay you've ever written in the past, right? And so, besides your personal statement one, of course, but that sometimes is additional information for them to see, oh, look at that. They, did this wonderful research paper on something, right? And so
Give them
that,
things to talk about.
yeah, gives them other things.
We have someone asking, how do you ask a teacher to show you their letter of recommendation when it's usually anonymous? Because FERPA rights are waived typically. What do you say? What do you say in a polite way?
That's in the email where you are asking them if they'd be willing to write that letter of recommendation. You state, I know that you're the one that's going to send it on to the committee, right? But because I'm going to be applying for some full tuition scholarships, it would be helpful for me to go ahead and see the letter. You don't have to tell them, oh, by the way, I'm picking the best 2 out of 6, right? Or be specific on why you need to see it. You can leave it vague. It would be helpful, right? Because you are going to be going after some big scholarships. Now, I do want to say, if your school has a rule that you are not allowed to see it, don't break the rule. That's not what I'm saying. If that's the rule, then don't try to break the rule. I'm just stating that it's good to have options. So perhaps you could, know what the rule is of your school, go by that, but also get other letters from other sources outside the school, just so you have choices. At the end of the day, I'm going to always be what's going to give the student more options.
Right. I know at Ivy Tutors, we have summer interns a lot who are high school students on our kind of operations, marketing, management side of the business. And, I always write them a letter of recommendation when they're done and give it to them, and say, use this for whatever. But it's just part of our process that they have it. Yeah.
I will tell you, I actually, I taught speech and debate for 12 years. And I wrote a letter of recommendation for one of my debaters years ago, didn't put the date on it, right? And that student goes after a ton of scholarships. By the way, I'm the one that keeps uploading it to the scholarship links, right? And that's why it's so important not to have the name of the scholarship in the letter, so that the reference person doesn't have to make changes to the letter, right? The student goes back, asks permission, say, hey, by the way, would you be willing to keep that letter on your desktop, which just means on their computer, laptop, easily accessible, so that I can apply to a lot of scholarships and it's easy for you to just keep uploading that letter. Is that okay? So
Right.
Once you get yes, and they're going to say yes, because it takes the village and they want to help you, then realize you've now been given permission to continue going after scholarships. I wrote that letter for that student 4 years ago. 3.5, maybe 3.5 years ago. And he's still using it and winning scholarships. Is it because of my letter? No. He's a stellar student, but the letter helps a lot.
Yes, and you mentioned this link software. So there, in general, there's like one software that's used for these letters of recommendation to be uploaded. So once the recommender makes their profile, it's really easy to go in and add more letters.
Yeah,
some
actually, it's
resume
different.
questions. Oh, sorry.
It's different. Every scholarship has a different link or a different way of doing it. It's just usually these days they're online. There's
Right.
not very many times that we're putting it in the mail. And so, every different scholarship has a different way, but they usually send an email to the reference and says, oh, here, upload the letter to this link.
Great. Couple of resume questions. Would you include an address, and is it okay to go over a page?
Okay. Actually, I usually say keep it to one page. The President Coolidge student resume requirement requires one page. Only go to 2 pages if you absolutely have to and you have an extensive experience in certain areas, right? But most of the time, one page is sufficient. And what was the other question?
Do you include your address on your resume?
I suggest not. Just the email address. They don't really need your home address or your phone number. That information is sent separately in a different area of the
Yeah, nowadays
software.
all you really need is email, right?
Yeah, it is given to the scholarship, your home address and your um, contact information, but that's not usually given to the scholarship committee. Just like what I said about the photo, don't put the photo on the student resume. A lot of scholarships will ask for the photo, but that photo is not given to the scholarship committee. It's just used for later if you win.
That makes sense. Will winning scholarships help college admissions, John? Like, would you list the scholarship on the Common App, and is that impressive to the admissions officers?
I think any achievement adds value. It's always the chicken or the egg question, right? Like, is the type of person who does this the type of person that the elite colleges would want? Usually, yes, right? It's not necessarily the competition that is the thing that's putting them in, but it's illustrative of the type of individual that they're looking for. So I'd say generally, yes, it would be helpful, and yes, you would list it.
Yeah, and I would say it kind of depends on the scholarship. If you were a Coca-Cola scholar, right, that's something to brag about. So absolutely. So if you were winning some of these top merit-based scholarships, it is very impressive, and it's going to, make a statement to those colleges going, oh, well, that scholarship committee thought this was a great, applicant. Perhaps
Yeah.
we should.
Great. Great. Is it okay to start applying for scholarships in the 10th grade, or is it too soon?
It's not too soon. It's totally fine. It's just there's other pieces of the puzzle, right? You're going to normally need a student resume, letters of recommendation, the unofficial transcript. It's just usually high school students in 10th grade haven't done enough yet, right, to talk about. But there are scholarships out there. So yes, if you're ready to start, start. Just get to the point sometime your junior year where you're going after one per year, one per week, one scholarship per week.
If you want to really, add them all up in this way, then yeah, totally. Yeah. I know for some, I only say that because I know especially for 11th graders, it can seem like a really big lift on top of studying for the SAT, doing well their APs or college exams and things like that. But I know Leah makes such a good, has really made such a great point to tell us that you reuse all these materials so much. It's really, a lot of it is about just going in and pressing send.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's like, that's really cool. I've learned so much here. A couple of more questions. Do you guys have like a minute or two left? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right, great. Someone's asking if the student joins as the member of NSHSS.
Yes, it is the student. You're a member for life. You just have to, you can go try to join by yourself by just going to the website, which is nshss.org. But you will have to demonstrate and show that because it is an honor society, right? You do have to have grades and or a test score. But it's worth it. It's good. And they do have a ton of scholarships. And the benefit is only the members going to go for those scholarships. And now that I go to the college fairs and I ask every single student that comes by my table, hey, have you applied for a scholarship yet through NSHS? Nobody applies. They're just busy. And so I really only think maybe 2 or 3% of the students are applying for the scholarship. So way less competition is my point.
Very interesting.
It's a great point. I also sit on a few scholarship committees, and most people don't know about these programs, and so they're very compared to like college applications. Usually, the quality of the scholarship applications is generally not super high. Of course, Coca-Cola, that's a different level, but like I'm talking about the smaller, more local scholarships, very accessible and worthwhile in that regard.
Yeah, love that. Will Trump's bias against DEI impact some of those scholarships that we looked at that have a DEI focus?
Depends on their funding source, I would guess. But I think the answer to that is probably no. I don't think those are necessarily, I mean, I know there's been some talk about NGOs being funded by the government and stuff. And if that's who's funding the scholarship, then maybe, but I would say a lot of them probably not.
I was going to say the same thing. I would support John's answer. It's scholarship committee that's from the one funding it that matters. And so, no, I think no.
Okay. Let's take one more here. Does it just have to be letters of recommendation from high school teachers, or can it be middle school teachers?
I would not suggest middle school teachers. And if you're a homeschool student, I don't recommend your parent writing your letter of recommendation. I actually have heard of it before. But I do think that you shouldn't go that far back. I think that it's better for it to be an academic teacher that's going to be like, it doesn't really matter what subject, but I was going to say perhaps an English teacher or science or math teacher that can speak specifically to you being a stellar student in that class. So ask the teacher that's in your class, but I would not go that far back. And also, I wouldn't mention things that you did in middle school either, unless maybe you made it to a national math competition in 8th grade, right? Where it's a really, really, really big deal. Accomplishment.
Objective achievement. Yeah.
Yeah, but in general, it's really only going to be the things that you were extracurriculars that you were involved in, in high school. And it's just that for the student resume, yes, you can tell your overall narrative that you were involved in choir and volleyball, but the majority of it needs to be focused as your activities were all focused on that specific area of your interest or your potential major in the future.
Love it. And Abigail, if you're still here, I saw your question about going to law school and should you go to an elite college and then an elite law school, or start at a smaller college and then go to an elite law school. And I think that that's something I would love to talk to you more about. It's a very personalized strategy, depending on so many different factors, including your budget for each of those and who, your other goals as a person. So let's definitely keep talking about that. Okay. Thank you guys so much. This is Leah's QR code for her course if you guys want to grab that, but we all will be following up with you guys for sure. So you'll hear from us and you'll hear about the course and our other offerings. Thank you everybody for being here. And if you're watching this later, definitely shoot us your questions. Leah, I learned so much. John, I always learn so much from you. Also, this was a lot and wonderful.
Great
Thank
presentation. You. Thank you, Leah. It was great.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.